Hello students, today's lesson we will be focusing on types of angles. Yes, it's a brand new topic which you wouldn't have done before, and some of the real life links are car designs, DIY and construction, and the keywords are below in the bottom left corner. The equipment for today's lesson you'll need are pen, paper, pencil and a ruler. Now, off with, we need to identify the different types of angles there are. Okay, now you can have acute angles, and acute angles are usually angles which are less than 90 degrees. So if you look at the dots on each of those two lines which are joined together, the angle between the two lines is always going to be less than 90 degrees for it to be an acute angle. Okay, so that's the first key part of information. Now, then you can also have right angles, which I'm sure you'd be familiar with, especially having just done area and perimeter. And usually you'd have a vertical line and a horizontal line. And the angle between the vertical and horizontal line will always be 90 degrees. Okay? Now, these are the different types where it can be vertical and horizontal, but they still create a right angle in the corner. Now, I want you to have a look here. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds. Just pause the video and try to find which of these shapes has at least one right angle. So pause the video now and have a go. Okay, what we should have found was that, as a matter of fact, each of these shapes actually has at least one right angle. Okay, and if you notice, as I said, it just has to have a horizontal and a vertical line, and where they meet, that is where the right angle is. Another word for it is perpendicular. Now, moving on, obtuse angles. Now, if you have a look at the angle between these lines, what they are doing are creating angles which are greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. So we had acute, which was less than 90. Now we have obtuse angles, which are between 90 and 180. Okay, so 90 does not count as an obtuse angle. That is a right angle, as we've just discussed. And 180 is not an acute angle, obtuse angle. It's any number in between. Okay, and these are more examples. Now, moving on. Reflex angles. Okay, so if we have a look at these two lines and the angle they are creating, reflex angles are greater than 180 degrees, but less than 360. Okay, and it's usually quite obviously a big angle. These dots are going around the outside of the two. Okay, now what I want you guys to do here is copy this diagram out, and that was giving you a description of the different types of angles you can find inside 2D shapes. Okay, so I want you to pause the video now, copy this out, and then we can move on. Okay, so we should have copied those diagrams out by now. And what I want you guys to do here is, this isn't the main task, but I want you guys on a piece of paper, question 1, what type of angle is it? Question 2, what type of angle, and so on, just so we can identify the different types of angles and what they may look like. So pause the video now and have a go, and then we can go through the answers. Okay, so what the first one, clearly we would have noticed that is an acute angle. Second is obtuse, third is acute, fourth reflex, the fifth one is a right angle. 6, 7, 8 and 9, there are your answers. And obviously the main thing here is obviously looking and identifying visually what they look like. Now, how many degrees are there in an obtuse angle, would you say? I want you guys to think about this one, and the answer would have been more than 90 and less than 180 degrees. What about a reflex angle? That would have been D, more than 180 degrees. And an acute angle, therefore, must be less than 90 degrees. Now, with these questions, I want you to decide which of these letters are acute angles. It could be more than one. I want you to pause the video now and have a go, and we can go through the answers. But what we should have found was that D is definitely an acute angle. Now, B is looking borderline like a right angle or maybe slightly more, so that can't be an acute angle, and the other two obviously are not acute, so D would have been the only one there. Now question number 2, which angles are or letters are reflex? Now what we should have noticed here is there are no reflex angles, so none of those letters would have been reflex. Okay, question number 3, which of these letters are obtuse? Okay, now A is definitely obtuse. That's more than 90 degrees, but it's less than 180. And we can say C is also obtuse, as that is more than 90 degrees. You can see clearly it's slightly more than a right angle, so that has to be an obtuse angle. Finally, question number 4, which of these letters are reflex? The answer that we should have got is C. C is definitely reflex. That's more than 180 degrees, and therefore it must be reflex. Now, as your main task, what I want you guys to do is you are going to, for the red box, draw the angles, what they look like, and you're going to obviously label them to show which one is acute, obtuse, reflex, and a right angle. And for green, you just need to write out both sides, so all the degrees on one side and the names on the other, and match them up using a pencil and a ruler. Okay, and take a picture of this, upload it to your class shots, and that will complete your learning for today's lesson. And that's all. See you in the next video.